Welcome to Little John Yarns. Today I'm going to teach you how to make this super simple crochet barefoot sandal. This sandal is created in only 5 short rows. We'll be working from the top, moving all the way down, and you can add little beads on the side. So the materials that we'll be using today is a 4mm crochet hook, and I'm using some beads. I don't know exactly where I had these. These were been in my craft room for years. And I'm using some gloss DK weight yarn, which was provided by We Crochet. This is 70% merino and 30% silk. You can find all that information down in the description box below, and you can also follow along to the free written pattern. So let's hop into it. We're going to begin by chaining 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to slip stitch into the very first chain to form a ring. Now chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Your chain 4 is going to count as a double crochet and a chain 1. We're going to place 3 double crochets into the ring. From here on out, I'm going to call these 3 double crochets a cluster. So place your cluster into the ring. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, 1, 2, cluster again into the ring. That's 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. To match the other side, we're going to chain 1 and place 1 more double crochet into the ring. So that is the end of row 1, and as you can see, the triangle is starting to form. You can pull on your tail to close up your center circle a little bit more. So for row number 2, we're going to chain 4 just like before. 1, 2, 3, 4 counts as a double crochet and a chain 1. Now we're going to place a cluster into this very first chain 1 space. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1. Now you made it to the corner. Every time you see a chain 2 space, that is considered your corner. You're going to place a cluster, chain 2 cluster in each one of your chain 2 spaces. Actually, you'll always have 1 chain 2 space. So let's start with our cluster. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, 1, 2, cluster back into that same chain 2 space. 1, run out of yarn. 2, 3, chain 1. And in every chain 1 space, you're always just going to do a normal cluster. So let's place 3 double crochets into that last chain 1 space. 1, 2, 3. If you notice that I'm moving too fast, you can always pause the video or slow it down. To match the other side, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to double crochet in the top of the chain 3 stitch. Not the top of the chain 4, but chain 3. So count up 1, 2, pull my work over, it's hard to see. And complete that last double crochet. So that is the end of round number 2. Round number 3 is exactly the same. I'll show you one more time. Remember, we're going to cluster in each chain 1 space, and in the top of your chain 2 space, you're going to cluster, chain 2, cluster. So let's begin. Chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn your work. Remember, cluster in the chain 1 spaces. That's the side. 1, 2, and 3, chain 1. We're still on the side and still working into the chain 1 space. Let's put a cluster in there. 1, 2, 3, chain 1. We made it to the top. Oop, hit my light. We made it to the top. So now we're going to do a cluster, chain 2 cluster into the previous row's chain 2 space. So let's do that. Cluster, that's 3 double crochets, 2 and 3, chain 2, 1, 2, and 3 double crochets back into that top corner. 1, 2, and 3. We're back on the side, so chain 1. Now we're going to do a cluster into the last 2 chain 1 spaces. So this first one we're going to do a cluster. Remember, I'm going to move a little bit faster. You can always slow down the video. 2, 3, that was the first cluster. Chain 1, and let's put that last cluster in that last chain 1 space. 1, 2, and 3. To match the other side, we are going to chain 1 and place a double crochet into the top of the chain 3. 1, 2, 3. For row number 4, you're going to repeat the same pattern all over again. You're going to chain 4, cluster, chain 1, cluster, chain 1, cluster, chain 1, make it through your top, and you'll do a cluster, chain 2, cluster, then back down the side again with a cluster, chain 1, cluster, chain 1, cluster, chain 1 with a double crochet at the end. So pause your video here and complete the next row yourself. We've just completed row number 4, and now we're on our very last row, number 5. We're going to chain 4 as normal. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn your work. You're going to place a cluster, chain 1 cluster into the next 1, 2, 3, 4 chain 1 spaces. So pause your video here. Continue placing the cluster, chain 1 cluster into each one of your chain 1 spaces. All right, we completed those side clusters, and now we made it to the corner right up top. So we're going to start with 3 double crochets into that corner. 1, 2, 3. Instead of chaining 2, this is going to be what wraps around the toe. As you can see right here, you can adjust it to what fits you perfectly. I chain 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're going to place that second cluster back into that very same chain 2 space. It's a little difficult, so yarn over and start that second cluster. I always get my yarn tangled when I do that. So that was 1, 2, and 3. Oop, don't forget to chain 1. And you're going to complete the rest of the pattern as normal. You're going to cluster, chain 1, cluster, chain 1. Don't forget to put that last double crochet into the top of your chain 3 stitch. Actually, you can pause your video here. We'll work that last stitch together. All right, we completed those stitches on the side, your cluster chain 1s, and like I promised, we're going to do the last stitch together. I already chained 1, so we're going to place that last double crochet into the top of your chain 3 stitch. And that completes row number 5. So now we're going to fasten off our work, but before you do, I want you to pull a tail at least 2 arm lengths long. That'll accommodate your strap that goes around your ankle. Now that we have our work fastened off, let me show you how I beat up my work. So I have this little nifty latch hook beater. I have no clue where I got it, so sorry guys. I guess you can search for it on Amazon. I'm just going to take the tip of that long tail and feed it through. All right, once you have your beads on, what you're going to do, you're going to create a slip knot. I like to make mine big so I can pull my slip knot as close to the beads as possible. There we go. I got my slip knot as close to the beads, so let me switch it down to normal hook size. And now you're just going to continue to chain. I chained about 75, but you can chain as long as you would like your chain to fit around your ankles. So pause your video here and continue with your chain to a 75 or longer or shorter. Now that we have one side done, you just have to do the other. It's going to be a repeat. What you're going to do, you're going to attach your yarn. Remember, it's about 2 arm lengths long. I'm going to attach my yarn. There we go. Perfect knot. And you're going to repeat the same process as before. You're going to put on your beads and you're going to continue with your chain. So that is exactly how you create these barefoot sandals. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.